All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Go With The Flow. I'm your host, Folarin Okulaja, or for today's episode, actually a pimp named Slickback, which we'll get to our costumes in 30 seconds. I have a special guest with me. As you can see, it's our Halloween episode. We're in costume.
Yeah.
We don't just dress like this. Funny
Well.
little... Maybe Couty does, but this is not how I... Funny.
I don't know. You kind of rock it, so it might be.
I appreciate that. I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of compliments I got over the past week and some change. Because again, we're recording this on November 2nd, which officially I think is the last day of celebrating Halloween.
Absolutely.
Last weekend there was Halloween celebrations, Friday, Saturday. Halloween was actually on Thursday. Went to a Halloween party last night, and I know there's some today. So I've kind of loved the extended Halloween season.
Me too.
And
should always be 2 weekends.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. In my building yesterday, when I got in the elevator, I was walking downstairs, I got in the elevator, and this lady goes, she was a little older. She was like, "Is it still Halloween?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, it is." And then after she said that, I was like, "What if I just said this was just my cause? This is just how I dress?" And she goes,
"This is my profession."
I was like, "What if I'm just a pimp?" And she goes, "Honestly, after I asked the question, I thought about that immediately, and I felt kind of bad. So I'm glad you kind of took it well." But my guest today, Couty, welcome to the show, Couty.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell the people who you are. Give them the background. Who are you? How do I know you? What's the connection here?
Oh, well, we met at Princeton. I was 2 years older than Flo. We met through some of his fraternity brothers that I was good friends with, and haven't necessarily maintained a friendship since, but I ran into you last weekend and was pretty offended that it took you this long to invite me onto the podcast. So I'm glad I'm finally here.
And it's so funny how that works, where literally I walk in, I saw you were talking, was it Hama? Yeah, you were talking to Andrew Hama.
Yeah.
And I walk up and we're saying hi. And one of the first things you say is exactly what you just said. I'm offended that I haven't been on the podcast. And what did I say? What are you doing next week?
Exactly.
I think people are always shocked about the speed at which we can make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for guests.
Yeah.
There's not some extensive list. Sometimes I'm better about planning in advance than other times.
Yeah.
And this was the way the timing worked for the episode. I knew I needed to record today to get the episode out on Monday. And so I was literally about to just start texting people for someone to come on.
Yep.
But look how God works. I walk in, you're right there, and then boom.
I know. And now you have the best guest that you've ever had and probably will ever have.
Let's
until
see.
I come back.
Until you come back. But okay, Halloween. How do we feel about Halloween in our, mid-20s now? Do we think Halloween gets a little more fun or less fun as we get older?
I think it depends on what your plans are.
Okay.
I think that in New York City specifically, going out on Halloween, it has to be a house party. Ticketed events suck.
Agreed.
It's got to be party with friends. You can freely show up in costume. You can talk to people. But the ticketed events, they're just never as fun as they're set out to be.
Retweet. I feel like I'd have the exact same feeling about New Year's as well.
Oh, yeah.
But Halloween especially is just a place where you want to be, well, obviously you're in costume, so you're already putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
But I would like to put myself out there with people that I even know tangentially or know through mutuals. And so what a house party is what will provide that kind of unique atmosphere. Totally. I've done ticketed events. Everything's way too expensive. You stand in line, you pay for drinks that are way too expensive. But house party any day of the week.
It's not even that fun.
Yeah.
Like, you can't get too drunk. The drinks are watered down. At a house party, you have freedom to do whatever you want.
This is true. Okay, your costume.
Yes.
What's the inspo? How did you decide on this costume? Were there multiple costumes this year? Let's talk about it.
There were multiple costumes this year. Friday night last week, I was Sabrina Carpenter, but in a very specific music video, in the Feather music video.
Can I be so honest about Sabrina Carpenter?
Please.
I have no idea where she came from. I swear I woke up one day and she was everywhere and I cannot name a song. And I went through this exercise with my coworkers because I don't listen to the radio and I'm not on TikTok other than to post clips from my podcast. I don't scroll.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm on Twitter. Twitter's
so
big.
You think you're better than me?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. But I swear she came out of nowhere. There was no, slow build, unless I missed all of this.
I think you missed it.
I just looked up one day and she was everywhere. And I was like, who is this woman?
Yeah. Do you want the lore?
Sure. Let me give us, who is she?
So,
make me a fan.
Olivia Rodrigo is.
Her, I know. Of course, because I used to watch High School Musical, the series, which is how she popped off. I don't think many people know that. But
exactly. So she was dating her co-star on that show.
Who was, Olivia or Sabrina?
Olivia.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, she wrote the song Driver's
Yep.
License and everything. So the blonde girl that she's talking about in Driver's License is Sabrina Carpenter.
You're lying.
Yeah. And so she thought that there was overlap. There was no overlap.
Huh.
Sabrina popped back. Like she clapped
Was
back.
she already a celebrity / singer and people knew her when Olivia Rodrigo made Driver's License?
She wasn't huge, but she was like in the industry.
So Sabrina Olivia kind of helped put her on the map.
Okay. She put herself on the map, but yes,
I mean,
technically in the mainstream, yes.
Wow. Okay.
And so she released an album, and a lot of the album was, the internet was dragging her after Driver's License came out. You're a slut. You're a whore. Sorry if I.
You can say those. You can say these words on Go With The Flow. It's okay.
Yeah, you're a slut. You're a whore. Like you, homewrecker, etc., etc. And so she released an album talking about what it was like going through that, and a couple of those songs blew up, and then this summer she just kind of exploded. You're telling me you haven't heard the song Espresso?
It's so funny. I literally went through this exercise at work because I said I've made this same statement a few times now, and people are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you don't know Sabrina Carpenter. You definitely know a song." And they went through the exercise. They played all her songs.
Yeah.
And now after we've done this, and they played when they first did it, I didn't know Espresso.
Yeah.
Now I know it because I've done this, but no.
Yeah.
No. And same with Chapel Roan.
Yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it? Chapel Roan. Chapel Roan. Where does she come from?
She's been around for a while.
Okay.
My sister is like, she's in the bi-queer atmosphere, or like in that environment, and she's loved Chapel Roan for years, and this year is the year that
the year she just took off. Okay.
She took off, yeah.
Fair enough. Because there was also, I think, a video from, I think it was Lollapalooza, where she was performing in front of what felt like 100,000 people, and everyone was singing word for word, bar for bar. And I was like, who is this woman?
Yeah.
But that also just goes to show, and I've said this so many times on here, everything doesn't need to be for everyone.
No.
As long as you have your audience of however many people that ride for you and will go to your concerts, buy your merch, you can be very successful, very, very rich, very famous without Folarin having to know or care about who you are.
No, exactly. And you never know what'll trigger like a mainstream explosion.
Yeah, that too. Like look at Couty. Not an artist, but not an artist, but
she
same
has a
thing.
Podcast.
Oh, I know. And as a struggling podcaster, it breaks my heart when someone with no talent, no, actually, I don't care. Fuck her. No talent could just pop off out of nowhere, get a big following, get a big audience because of one viral moment. It doesn't make sense.
You should just say something absolutely insane.
See, but I can't do that.
I'm
a professional. I mean, there's an image I got to keep up. Not an image, but a certain way I have to portray myself. So I'm not going to do anything out of character because, I always like to say, I feel like every episode I've ever recorded, I could watch with my grandma and I'll be like, yeah, I haven't said anything that I wouldn't stand by because it's that type of content. Okay, but your other costume. Yes. That's how we got here.
Yes. So she inspired my costume because she released a song called Feather a year ago. And the lyrics really spoke to me. She's talking about an ex and how she feels like she's like, I feel so much lighter like a feather with you off my mind.
Oof, damn.
Yeah.
Bars. Okay.
Spoke to me. Music video, absolutely phenomenal. She got in a lot of trouble with a Catholic church. So scenes of the video are filmed in a church.
Okay.
Other scenes of the video involve her killing multiple men. The church was a little bit pissed that they were associated with murder. But the scenes in the church, she's wearing this like black tutu, no pants, veil. She's kind of like a dark widow kind of vibe. It's iconic. And so obviously I had to dress up like her.
Fair enough. Love it. Yeah. Okay. And then
this one.
And then this one.
See, I have the body proportions of what you would call an hourglass.
Okay.
I think that I might be the closest realistic, non-plastic surgery replica of Elastigirl.
Okay, talk your shit.
I had to do what I had to do.
Fair enough.
And dress up. If you have the body for it, you got to do it.
I respect it. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Simple enough.
I'd stand up and give a twirl, but I don't want to
shock
people. It's okay.
Okay, I like it. And are you usually a multiple costumes per Halloween girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
My friend was visiting last weekend and she did not have a costume and she was panicking. And I was like, I don't know why you're panicking. She walks into my apartment and I open up my costume closet. You have a
costume closet, as one does,
she had
naturally.
Like 6 things to choose from.
So actually at this point I also do kind of, well, It's a costume under my bed. I just
Yeah.
there's a section under the bed. It's
Storage
organized. It
box?
sounds crazy, but it's
Yeah.
organized under the bed. Where my costume for the past 4 years, they're all shoved in there,
Yeah.
including my senior year of college when I was supposed to be a character from Squid Game. I ordered a costume off Etsy, and it came a week and a half after Halloween, which is unideal. So I actually haven't opened the package,
Oh, no.
and it's still there. But now that Squid Games is coming out with another season, I feel like I could resurrect it for next year.
Or you could just be retro, like vintage Squid Game.
Yeah.
Like, hey, remember
yeah. But for this year, I decided to go with a pimp named Slickback from the TV show The Boondocks. I was pleasantly surprised with how many people actually knew who I was on first guess.
Yeah.
I got a couple Willy Wonkas, I got a couple Flavor Flavs, but there were a couple people who just walked up to me. They're like, a pimp named Slickback? I was like, a pimp named Slickback. So I was pleasantly surprised. Great reception.
Yeah.
People, a lot of compliments. I've now worn this costume last Friday, last Saturday, yesterday, and today. I didn't go out on actual Halloween, but I've been very pleasantly surprised with the reception to the costume.
I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
I got pimp. I didn't know that it was pimp.
A specific one, a pimp named. Okay, hold on. Let me put. Oh, I had it on my phone yesterday. Hold on. Let me show.
Well, so I've seen the Boondocks. I just haven't seen.
Oh, he's like a main character on the Boondocks.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's.
I guess when I'm watching the Boondocks, I'm not necessarily
Yeah.
in my right mind. So
fair. All right, I'll include a picture. But okay, so it's fall in New York City.
Yes.
One of my favorite times of the year.
Same.
Except right now it's November 2nd, and it's 60-something degrees out. How do we feel about that? Are we at all concerned for our planet, our Earth, the world?
Very much so. Actually, I saw a news article the other day, and when I say news article, I mean a TikTok. I saw a TikTok the other day where they were saying that this was the first snowless October on Mount Fuji.
I saw that.
Crazy.
That's concerning.
Like, do we know we have 30 minutes?
That's concerning.
We're gonna die.
I saw a tweet the other day, literally a tweet. I saw a tweet last night that it said, forget looking for a job, go find the love of your life who you want to die in the arms of in the next 5 years. When the world somehow, due to global warming, the world ends for whatever reason. But it's not ideal.
Yeah.
I think I like fall fashion. I like when it starts to get a little bit colder. It's been none of that. I was literally wearing shorts and a t-shirt yesterday when I was walking to the grocery store. I don't go grocery shopping. I needed body wash and some stuff, some like face wash. That's what I went to the Dwayne Reed on my street. I don't go grocery shopping. But yeah, it's a little bit concerning.
Wait, I want to dig into that. Why don't you go grocery shopping?
I have a horrible habit of eating out.
Okay.
And ordering in, which I realize is a real problem. But I don't have the time to cook, or at least that's a lie that I tell myself. And so the only time I've actually really gone grocery shopping was when I moved to New York 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I went with my mom to Sam's Club in New Jersey, and we brought all the groceries.
Nice.
Since I've moved to the city 2.5 years ago, not that I've never grocery shopped, but I haven't really grocery shopped.
It's nice to just have things to nibble on.
Yeah, it is. And I know this about myself, and it's a problem. I should definitely be better about not wasting money on food. And every time my mom calls me, she's like, are you still eating out all the time? And I'm like, yeah. And then I feel bad, and I try to correct it a little bit. But I don't feel like I have the time. If I was in a job that wasn't so demanding and I wasn't in 5 days a week, and the little time that I'd have to not be working, I don't want to sit and meal prep for 2 or 3 hours.
So fair.
Then I think I would. But right now, I've accepted that this is what life is going to be for the near term.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. Like, I can expense dinner, and so I'm gonna expense dinner.
Yeah. Are you good about eating healthy though, and buying kind of the?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one thing.
Now.
Okay.
When I first moved here, I was not.
Because at first you're like, oh my God, I have X
Yeah.
amount of dollars, so many options. I'm going to eat everything that I've always wanted to order.
I'm getting an appetizer, I'm getting an entree, I'm getting dessert.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden your stomach starts to reject it, and then your body starts to react, and you're like, oh yeah, I need to maybe throw in a little sweet green in there,
anymore.
A little chopped in there. You know what's so crazy? Oh, speaking of your clothes not fitting anymore, most of my work clothes that I got when I moved to the city 2.5 years ago, they don't really fit me anymore. All the pants are kind of tight. And I'm like,
building muscle. Let's
that's
say that.
That's what it was. No, it is that though, because I remember I saw there was a picture of me and we're just so off topic now, and that's perfectly fine. That's when this is the most fun.
Yeah.
But I saw a picture of my camera roll, and it was from August of 2023. So 2022, right when I moved to the city.
Yeah.
Group of my friends and I went to the beach, Long Island, I think, and I saw myself and I was shirtless and I was like, damn, you were skinny. And I remember back then I was like, oh, he's in good shape.
Yeah.
And now I look at myself, I'm like, hey man, you work out a little bit. You looking a little good.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I've definitely put on weight, but it's just been like the other day I put the pants on, squatted, ripped. I was like, this is not the way it's supposed to be.
That's actually that's a little bit tragic. I can't.
It is a little bit tragic. So yes.
I just don't try them on.
Say all that to say, my eating habits are a little bit healthier, of which I'm thankful for. Health is wealth. You gotta be, best version of yourself. I haven't had a drink in 3 weeks.
No.
3 weeks.
Really? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is this like conscious effort?
Conscious effort. I told myself. So came back from Jamaica 3 weeks ago, and which was the same week of my birthday. So that week.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. There were hashtag Flow Day. One of the friend whose birthday trip it was.
Seen
there was content.
Yeah,
There was content.
there was a lot of content.
The friend whose birthday trip it was, she's gonna come on and we're gonna recap the trip and Flow Day and all that. So we're not gonna get too much into it.
Yeah.
But I told myself that after that Jamaica trip, and then I'm going to Ghana and Nigeria in December, that I was gonna try to I was gonna try to not drink for that 2.5 month long period.
Really?
It's now been 3 weeks, and I've been pleasantly surprised at myself and proud of myself for being able to keep it up, because there have been some real temptations. There's been Halloween weekend. There's been tailgating at an Eagles game. There's been client events with open bars. There's been a lot that I've had to withstand.
Yep.
And you also don't realize how many times you get offered shots on a daily basis.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've had to say no and then explain why I don't want a shot.
Yeah.
It's been a lot.
Well, so it's so interesting. Do you feel that you can have the same level of fun without drinking?
Great question. And that's the question I've been getting asked. And the answer, honestly, is yes. And the events that I've had fun at sober are the ones I would have had fun at if I was drinking. Not even necessarily drunk, because I'm not like getting drunk all the time.
Yeah.
But I would have had fun drinking.
Yeah.
And the ones that I haven't had fun at sober are the ones where even if I was drunk, I would have been like, this is kind of ass. So
interesting.
I think that, you are going to have fun regardless.
Yeah.
Based on the people, the location, what the actual event is, regardless of if you're drinking or not. And then drinking will actually, it does make things a little more fun. Again, everything in moderation.
Yes.
But drinking is fun. I'm never not going to drink. Like, I'm going to drink again. Yeah. But for the time being, I just want to see how long I can go.
Yeah.
And the biggest impact has been on my sleep, because I got an Oura ring.
Oh.
Measuring my sleep. And I feel that I wake up so much more refreshed and energized every day.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
I actually do notice the effect on sleep. Like if I have a casual weekday drink, I'm not able to sleep well that night. And I used to think that it was just like mixing my medication with the drinks, but no, it's not good for you.
It's not good for you. Speaking of well-being, it's marathon weekend.
Yeah.
The marathon's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will you be attending? Will you be running? Or are you a marathoner?
No. I'm not a marathoner. I've thought about walking it because I'm a big walker.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Really?
There
whole
are a lot
thing?
of people who walk the whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole
That'll
thing.
take a lot of hours. You think the workers want to stay there and watch you
No.
walk it for the whole day? They got places to be, things to do.
People walk it every year. There are actually a lot of people who walk it. And
That should be a different race. No disrespect. Damn.
Okay. Walkers get a lot of exactly this. It's
Flack.
prejudice and it's bias.
Yeah.
I walk quickly. I walk a 15-minute mile.
Is that quick?
Yes, that's quick. For walking,
Yeah, but then
walking pace is 20 minutes.
okay, but multiply that by 26.2. You're there all day. People don't have that much time to be there waiting for you.
People will wait.
Okay.
Because if you're walking that long, people are going to be proud of you.
So when was the first time you watched the New York City Marathon?
It was in 2021. Yeah.
And what was the reaction that you had? Because I have a very specific answer about the first time I watched it, so I'm just curious what your experience was like watching it for the first time.
So I had friends running it, and I just like felt overwhelming pride, not just in them, but in the city. The city really bands together around the marathon runners, and like they'll come out, they'll have like snacks and drinks for people, and it's like a moment of togetherness that you don't necessarily expect until you live here. And now it's like such a big part of, the culture. And you don't know it until you move here.
That is exactly it. And I was so surprised so my aunt runs it every year. And so she was
sick.
Yeah, that year, the first year that I watched it, which was if I moved to the city in 2022, it was probably that fall.
Yeah.
It was because she was running in it, and so first stop we did was Brooklyn,
Mhm.
and there's something especially about Brooklyn because
Mhm.
Brooklyn compared to Manhattan is so again, it's more homey vibes. It's a lot more.
Yeah.
You don't get the city influence as much, and so it just feels like a town.
Yeah.
And then you look over and it's like, oh, there's Manhattan, but it's
Yeah.
still Brooklyn. It's still a little more laid back, more chill.
Yeah.
And so that specifically, I remember, at first I was like, oh, I'm gonna do it to support my aunt, whatever, but like, fine.
Yeah.
And then you get there, and it was still a while before she would get there. But you look up, and then I still remember this. Everyone's running, and then I'm just like standing there, like arms folded, and then everyone's like clapping for people that they don't know and like yelling names because they would like look at the names and they would yell for them. And I was like,
Yeah.
what's going on? You don't even know that person. Next thing I know, a couple minutes later, I'm like cheering.
Yay,
I'm like, exactly, yay, John, clapping for everybody, yelling everybody's names.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, why? And then I feel myself getting emotional. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah.
Why is this eliciting such a strong emotion out of me that I would have never expected from seeing people run?
It's really emotional. Like, people dedicate months and months of their lives to like achieving this goal that they've had, and it's wild to see such passion. And then also it's overwhelming to see the support, like you said, for strangers.
Yeah.
It makes you believe in humanity.
It really does. And I think that is one of those moments where it makes you believe in people.
Yeah.
There's so much going on, election on Tuesday, which
Yep.
we'll get into, but not too deep into, but we'll touch on it.
I don't need to have a panic attack.
Yeah, yeah. Where again, most of the things we do are so divisive, but I'm such a people person. I'm such a kumbaya, like, why can't we all get along?
Yeah.
And the marathon is one of those instances where it doesn't matter who you are. You don't even have to know someone. You are going to cheer for them. You just want
Yeah.
to see them achieve exactly what it is that they've been working for months at a time. And then when you see people that you know, it's like, oh my God, that much more powerful. Cause it's like, again, I know what you're going through to put yourself through this to run.
Yeah.
People who are running for a charity or a bigger cause. There's just so much that surrounds it where it is one of the most special things that I've been to, one of the most special things about New York City.
Totally.
And I encourage anybody who's never watched the marathon, because you might also think like, why the fuck would I go watch it?
Yeah.
I truly encourage you to go watch it.
Yeah.
And to also do different stops. So we did Brooklyn first, which was my favorite stop.
Yeah.
And then made our way into Manhattan. But every step along the way is still great.
Yeah.
You see families like rushing from stop to cheer,
Mhm.
give water, and then you hustle around again.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's so awesome.
It's awesome. Will I ever run it? Probably not.
No.
But there's you got to play your role. My hands, they work actively. Yeah, John. Yeah, Lisa.
You'll clap for 26.
Yeah, Connor.
2 miles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I will do. I
Yeah.
know who I am and the role I have to play.
Yeah.
I'm not a marathoner. God bless those people, but I don't have it in me.
I have bad knees.
Me
Couldn't
too.
be me.
I'm getting old.
Mhm.
But okay, what oh no, you just said you would never run it either. That was also
No.
something I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Okay, so transitioning a little bit to, we've spoken about this a little bit, fall season, although it doesn't feel like it, it's also daylight savings tomorrow. There's so much going on in this period of time.
I know, it's spooky.
It is spooky season, daylight savings. One of the things that usually comes along with that, seasonal depression.
Yeah.
Which is feel like it always gets even more real when daylight savings happens.
Oh, absolutely.
And you wake up and it's dark and you leave work. So you walk to work, it's dark. You leave work, it's dark.
Yep.
You don't really see any light of day.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's something that affects you on a yearly basis, seasonal basis? How does that affect you?
Well, okay. So yes, seasonal depression does affect me. But depression affects me year round. So it peaks and valleys. So it's not like the typical seasonal depression that you'd see. But the darkness definitely doesn't help. And like I said, I walk 5 miles every day. And so
You said that?
Oh, I didn't say that?
No.
Okay. I walk 5 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, did I miss
said,
that?
I'm a big
I think I
walker.
missed it.
Yeah. But, that takes like an hour 15 minutes a day. And with work, like I can carve out that time, but it gets harder and harder to carve out that time when it gets dark at 5 p.m. And so I either have to go out at 3:30 or I have to forgo the walk. And that impacts my mental health because I'm not getting any fresh air. There's no vitamin D, even though it's lacking most of the time anyways. Yeah, no, seasonal depression is really real.
Wait, so the hour walk that you do, what
Yeah.
is the purpose of that? Just to get fresh air for mental health, or what's the
It's
reason?
exercise, it's
Okay.
mental health, it's fresh air, it's kind of all of the above.
How long have you tried to do it? How successful are you with doing that on a daily basis?
I'm pretty successful. Like now that I'm in a more like managerial role,
Okay,
in my
manager.
job.
Okay, manager.
Yeah. I work in consulting, and so my role now is like a case team lead. I don't know if the team, like if the people will know what that means, but basically I manage the whole team, and so I have time during the day that I can
Mm.
go out and walk. So when the team's on an expert call, I can listen in while doing my walk, which is huge. But back when I was an associate, back when I was a consultant, I was not able to do that. But it's been since 2022. And I'd say on average, I'm doing 5 days a week. 7 would be great, but
Mhm.
on average, 5 just depends on the case and my hours.
Okay, gotcha. And
Yeah.
so you mentioned that it's not just seasonal for you; it might be even year round.
Yeah.
At one point, did you realize that this was something that you were dealing with?
Oh yeah. That was in. I think I've always had an inkling that I've dealt with depression, and I've always been an anxious person. I think that for us, like as overachievers, like and aspiring to like the next best thing, be it like in high school you're trying to get into the best college, if like during college you're trying to get the best job, etc. um you know there's a lot of anxiety there. And so, but I never called it anxiety. And it was in the winter of 2022 I had a 3-day long panic attack where I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't eat. I like the only time I had any sort of peace in my mind is when I was sleeping. And I slept a lot during that 3-day period. And on day 3, I was like, okay, there is a serious problem here. I made a same day appointment with a psychiatrist, was prescribed Klonopin, which is benzo that, helps with panic attacks. And then the next week, found a therapist and, you know, decided that like I need to prioritize my mental health because that I can't go through that again. And being in therapy all this time has like made me realize that I've been depressed for a very long time. I have what's called um, major depressive disorder, MDD. And so it comes and goes in waves, goes up and down as anything does. But yeah, so
Couple of things that you touched, because a lot
yeah,
to unpack there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
again, appreciate you the openness,
totally.
vulnerability.
I think it's really important.
Even just something like a panic attack.
Yeah.
Can you describe that in more detail? Because I feel like that's something people hear, and
And
if
people
it's
use it
something,
a lot.
and
Yeah.
if it's something that you've never had, you might not really appreciate exactly what that is.
Yeah.
So if you could just describe in a little more detail what a panic attack even
Yeah.
is.
So it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. Um, the way that people most closely associate it, it's basically like you're hyperventilating and like you don't have control over your body or yourself or your thoughts, and you're kind of just like in a state of panic. And then, it passes, or you take meds to make it pass. um, but panic attacks can also manifest themselves in like ruminating thoughts that will not stop. And so your heart rate is elevated and you just cannot stop thinking negative things. And that's what happened to me during that 3-day period where at a certain point I thought I was going to die. I was like, these thoughts will not go away. I can't think of anything else. I can't do anything. If I get out of this bed, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand up. Like it was it's bad. And yeah, so you have to like find some sort of comfort. And quite frankly, that panic attack did not end until I took that medication.
And I think that's one thing where, again, people hear the term panic attack and they think it's, oh, I'm stressed about what grade I got on this exam,
Yeah.
or I'm stressed about if this person's going to text me back,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
that might be a little bit more trivial. So I think it is helpful for people to realize and understand that difference. And anyone who's experienced one can probably relate to what you're saying and appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
I have not ever had one.
Yeah.
But again, until you hear people describe it in a little bit more detail, I don't think you truly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And also, even to that point, I think when it gets portrayed, I think being portrayed in media is also helpful because have you ever watched the show This Is Us?
No.
This Is Us, phenomenal show.
I've heard.
I love that show with mine. I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
It makes you cry.
Oh.
I
don't need to cry. I'm depressed.
Fair enough. Good point. Maybe I was a little too happy, so I was like, I needed something to be a little sad about. Fair enough. Fair enough. Good point. Good point. Well, it's a sad show. It's a happy show. It's just it tracks this family and it just touches on all the everyday issues that we all experience as human beings.
Yeah.
And I always say that it doesn't matter who you are. They touch on something in that show that will hit home for you.
Yeah.
But so one of the main characters, who is this very successful businessman, big family man, runs for elected office and he wins. And so from the outside looking in, again, he has it all together. He experiences a panic attack on the show, and I think they do a very good job of depicting how debilitating it was for someone who, from the outside looking in, is this kind of superhero to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, even my own first inkling of like, oh, might be something that's a little more serious rather than, just a little, again, being worried about something trivial. So I think being portrayed in media and shows that can do that well will also help people, along with conversations like this, kind of understand more broadly what something like a panic attack even is.
And that's the key, right? Like depicting it accurately. I think that there are a lot of terms that have been trivialized or they're just kind of like tossed around, like panic attack.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, having a panic attack. And I used to do that before I actually went through a panic attack. And I think that it's important in media to show the nuances of mental health because, I mean, maybe you did have this impression of me, but generally when I tell people like, oh, I'm an extremely anxious person, I have like diagnosed depression.
I would have never guessed.
Surprising. Yeah.
I would have never guessed. You were a very confident individual, successful, X, Y, and Z. And we've never been like super duper close, but put together exactly.
Yeah. And so it's like, and even some of my closest friends, like when I told them like what was going on, shocking.
Yeah, talk to your friends, people.
Yeah, talk to your friends. And that's why I'm so open about this is like you never know who you're helping by speaking up. The reason I even knew to go to a psychiatrist and, seek help for the things that I was feeling is because a friend of mine was super open about their mental health issues. And so now literally everyone I meet, I'm like, I have depression because you never
know you're open. I think that is important. Exactly.
People don't talk about it enough and it's stigmatized. And I don't think it should be because so many people are dealing with things. And it generally ends in like a shock and God forbid, like worst case scenario, someone takes their life and no one around them knew that they were experiencing these things because they didn't feel comfortable enough to talk about it. And so I think that on an individual basis, if more people talk about mental health and more people talk about ways to address mental health issues and just knowing that it's normal and that it's okay, it'll destigmatize it in the long run.
I agree. And especially when you think, like they always say, like check on like the strong friend. It's always the one like you'll never expect.
Yep.
Again, something as simple as that where from the outside looking in, people present a certain way. Not even because they're faking it, just because maybe they are confident, but they are battling with all these different things. It's not only the person who might be showing signs that actually need some help.
Yeah.
You watch TV or not even, just you look in the news and it's this super successful celebrity who might have it all in the world and they might take their own life and it's like, oh, what was the issue? It's maybe they're that person who they're usually there for everybody. They're the strong friend, but no one's actually reaching out, checking in on them. So that I think is super important is no matter how strong or how the way someone presents from the outside looking in, you never know what someone is going through.
No.
I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's like again, that's the one thing I always try to remind myself is when people are like mean or assholes or whatever, I'm like, honestly, they're probably just going through something. I'm not going to take it personal. I hope you're doing okay. God bless. And then you kind of keep it pushing.
Yeah.
That's when it's strangers. If it's people actually in your life, take that extra moment, figure out what they might be going through.
Why are you being a bitch?
Why are you being a fucking asshole?
Yeah.
But okay, so even some more definitional things.
Yeah.
Difference between psychologist or psychiatrist and therapist.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So a psychiatrist they went to med school they can prescribe medication.
Okay.
And so that's the biggest difference. A therapist, unless they are a psychiatrist or a licensed nurse practitioner, like a psychiatric nurse practitioner, they can't prescribe any medication. A psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner, like a psychiatric nurse practitioner, they can prescribe medication.
Mm-hmm.
And so generally when you're seeing a psychiatrist, you're not talking to them about what's going on. My psychiatrist is incredible. And so she'll schedule like an hour and we'll talk through what's going on. And then we'll talk about, what changes need to be made to my dosages, if I need to change medication, whatever it might be. But most psychiatrists, you see them for 15 minutes. They're like, how's it going? You're like, fine, good, bad. And then they're like, all right, we're going to up you 25 milligrams. And it can be kind of difficult because I've switched psychiatrists a couple of times because I'm like, you actually don't know what's going on with me. You're just making an assumption that I need a higher dosage.
Yeah, you would
but
think
actually,
those.
maybe I need something different.
Yeah, you would think those two things would go hand in hand. I don't see how you could do the second part without doing the first part. So I feel like
Exactly.
this should be a combined role.
Totally. And my psychiatrist speaks to my therapist.
Okay.
And so like
Makes
she
sense.
gets context from her and will, especially on like the childhood stuff and everything, just to put me in context. And then she knows me at this point now. We've been seeing each other for over a year. My therapist is my longest term relationship. Love her down. Shout out Sarah.
Shout out Sarah. Send the episode to Sarah.
Yeah, I know. I actually will. She's gonna be so proud of me. So yeah, my psychiatrist, she will chat with Sarah and be like, what's going on? And then when she sees me, she's like, you look a little more anxious today. Like, what's going on? Or you seem really calm. I think the meds are working, etc. And then a therapist, I see Sarah once a week. And you can see a therapist. I used to see her twice a week back when, things were really not doing great. You can see them twice a week. You can see them twice a month. It doesn't really matter, but that's someone who you spend 45 minutes to an hour with just talking. So she'll open up every conversation with, how's your week been? And then based off of what those responses are, we'll like
Probe
it's
a
like
little more.
It's like this is therapy.
It is for
It's
me
kind
too.
of
It is
just
for
like
me
this.
too.
Yeah.
This is my outlet. Yeah.
No, it's exactly like this, except there's no back and forth. I'll be like, "Well, so how's your week?" She's like,
No, it's not about me.
We're here to talk about you. But yeah.
Okay, and that's again helpful. 'Cause I'm not familiar with many of these terms, so even I'm learning. I hope people that are watching
Yeah.
are also learning. But so it sounds like at a baseline level, the psychiatrist might be a little bit more not transactional, but they're more like trying to figure out the right thing to do, not as quickly as possible, just get to that point.
Yeah.
Whereas the person you actually unpack things with is the therapist.
Yes.
Is that a good way to kind of summarize it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to be quite frank, most psychiatrists, it is transactional. Like, I think that I'm very lucky. Carrie, shout out Carrie.
Shout out Carrie, yeah, shout them out.
Yeah.
Send some business their way if they're good at what they do.
Carrie, Oneida psychiatry. She's awesome. Don't tell her I sent you, because then she won't be able to treat you.
If she sent you, use my code FLOW for 20% off.
Actually, you're gonna need that. They're also very expensive, which I think is a big issue because mental health should not be prohibitive. All healthcare should not be prohibitive.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different conversation for another day. What was the question?
I didn't ask one, but I actually I did have one. So talk more about that process of finding both psychiatrists and therapists, because that is something where actually, even really quickly, this is another thing where a lot more people go to therapy than you realize.
Oh yeah.
The amount of times, not a lot of times, but there's been more times than I've expected where you're having a conversation with a friend and they just slip in, and I was talking to my therapist and I was like I'm mentally registering. I'm not like, oh my God, you go to therapy, because that's not how you're supposed to react. But the amount of times that's popped up in conversations has also been even surprising, which I think just goes to show that, again, more people are utilizing these services than you realize, which should also help to destigmatize it and actually make it a little more mainstream. I'm a big fan of, and again, some people find this individual controversial. I don't think it's actually that controversial, but Charlemagne the God, I think he's done a phenomenal job about making mental health conversations, especially for men,
Yep.
very mainstream and
Black
make it black men especially
Yep.
less taboo. And it was through listening to his podcast where I don't go to therapy. I'm not against it, but I've just never gone. Where even just listening to his podcast, I was like, maybe I should look into it. Not because anything's wrong, but the way he describes it is like the way you go to your doctor for a physical every year.
Yep.
Not that there's anything wrong. You're just making sure you're good.
Yeah.
And he talks about how his daughter is in therapy, not because anything's wrong, but just to make sure that she's going to stay well and kind of develop in the right way. So
Totally.
I think it's important for people to, again, these people are all doing a great job of destigmatizing, and I think this conversation will also help. But sorry, back to how you went about finding therapist.
Well, I actually do want to touch on that for a second. Like, I am a very unique case, and I don't want people to take my story and be like, oh, I need to have a 3-day panic attack before I start going to therapy.
Yeah.
I should have gone to therapy years ago.
Everyone probably needs therapy.
I think, I actually agree. Even like, there doesn't have to be a traumatic childhood experience, a traumatic current life experience for therapy to be helpful. I think that just having a space to talk to someone who you know will not judge you under any capacity and might just help better you as a person, I think that's really important. That said, it is, especially in New York, so difficult to find a therapist. 1, they're incredibly expensive. 2, most of them don't take insurance. So finding a therapist—
Oh, interesting. Really? That sounds like an easy, simple thing to fix that would go a long way. I would think.
Yeah, no, but a lot of them don't take insurance. And so, again, it's cost prohibitive. And some insurance companies don't cover therapy, which, again, a little bit crazy and ridiculous. And so ZocDoc, if you go on ZocDoc and you put in your like insurance provider, what it is you're looking for, you'll find therapists that that will take insurance.
Okay.
The other thing is, I think a lot of people think that a therapist has to be a psychologist. A therapist does not have to be a psychologist. There are
introduced a different word. What's a psychologist?
Yeah. Well, so a psychologist also went to med school.
Okay.
Or no, a psychologist has either a master's or a PhD in psychology.
Okay.
They didn't go to med school, so that's why they're not a psychiatrist.
Gotcha.
And they just like studied, and that's their thing.
Okay.
But licensed social workers are therapists. And when I was doing my search, I was like, oh, it has to be a psychologist. Like, what are all of these social workers? Like, I don't need a social worker, I need a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're all trained to do the exact same thing. And honestly, the licensed social workers end up being better than the psychologists. But first step, go to ZocDoc, see what your insurance or who's covered by your insurance. They make it so easy for you. They'll show you within like a 10-mile radius how many therapists there are. There are hundreds. But then finding one is difficult. So finding a therapist is a lot like dating. You go on a lot of first dates. I tried maybe like 15 therapists before I saw Sarah. So you see them for an hour, and then you're like, yes or no. And it's kind of like a gut feeling.
Kind of like dating.
Exactly. And don't feel guilty. Like if they're like, oh, I'll see you next week, don't feel guilty. Like they know that it needs to be a good fit for both of you.
Do you ghost them?
You're supposed to ghost.
You're supposed to
ghost therapists.
Okay, do that in therapy.
For a while.
Don't do that in dating. Don't
do that in
dating. Don't ghost people. Don't go. Let's be adults now. What's wrong? There's no. Okay, we'll get off talk. Sorry. No, we'll stick with this. No, we'll get to that.
Yeah. I think there are appropriate situations for ghosting, but anyways. Go on the dates and find your person. With Sarah, I was on the practice's website, and the practice called me. So I booked with someone, and I was like, okay, I need to have a Black woman as my therapist.
That's another thing I was going to ask, if their background, the demographic therein matters.
I thought it did. I was like, I need a Black woman. On ZocDoc, I find a Black woman. The practice that she's a part of, it's all like a bunch of young people. Everyone at the practice is under the age of 35. Very diverse. Half of the therapists there are queer, so it's like a very like safe, inclusive environment. And I choose this Black woman, and then the practice calls me and they say, "Oh, we just have her picture up on ZocDoc, but she's not accepting any new patients. These are the two people who are accepting patients. It was two white women. And I was like, I don't know. I was really looking for a Black woman because like all of my other doctors need to be Black women because Black women are not treated well in the
Host of
healthcare
reasons.
system.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I looked at Sarah, I looked at her picture, and I was like, this girl has kind eyes. So I booked, and I was like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Within 2 minutes, I knew that she was going to be my therapist.
Just like a date.
Just
I always
it
say
was
in the first 5 minutes,
immediate.
I can tell if I like you or not, or if I want to do it again. Yeah.
And now we say I love you, which
Oh,
is like,
Or you
I don't know
s-
how allowed
I was about to say, are you supposed to?
Yeah,
Aw.
but we say I love you. That's my girl. I wish I could be friends with her in real life, but we're not allowed.
You're not. There's actually, I can see how that could get
Yeah. Yeah.
messy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
But she's awesome. Like
And she's a white woman, and she's not Black. And so, yeah, I think there are probably, and again, this is my own opinion, just as someone who's not been to a therapist or
Yeah.
a psychiatrist, but I do feel like for a man, you should probably have a man, and as a
Yeah.
woman, you should probably have a woman.
Yeah.
Probably of your, I would also assume some of your own race too, but I assume there's instances like yours where it could be someone of a different race and it still works. But I think at a baseline, like men understand men better, women understand women better. And I feel like with the opposite gender, there'll be so much explaining you'd have to do before you actually got to then discuss another thing. So
Maybe.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's more about shared experiences than anything.
Yeah.
Like, again, I went through 14 Black women, and I
Damn.
You're like, same.
Shit. In this costume. Which is also hilarious, by the way, because I thought about that. So we're having such a beautiful, serious conversation.
Yeah.
And we're wearing our costumes.
Yeah, I know. Go to therapy.
Yes, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for that openness and
Of
vulnerability.
Of course.
I think, biggest takeaway from that is everyone should go to therapy.
Yes.
Don't
And
wait till
also-
something is extremely wrong or until or you are on the verge of something dire happening to do that. We can all benefit from it.
And there's also, and we'll move past this after this point, but I do want to make this point. There's a lot of stigma around medication. I am on a lot of medication. Wait, a lot is a stretch. Not crazy. Camera, I'm not crazy.
No one thinks you're crazy.
Yeah,
We're not using the word crazy.
No, but I take Zoloft, which is for anxiety and depression, and I take Wellbutrin, which is for depression. And the day that I knew that I needed medication was the day that it kicked in for the first time. So I've been on Zoloft for like 2 years. I just started Wellbutrin. There was one day I was on one of my 5-mile walks, and I was just walking around, and my mind was kind of like clear, and I wasn't stressed about anything. And I was like, wait, is this what normal people feel like? They don't have racing thoughts all day. I was like, what's going on? And then I saw my therapist, and I was like, it was so weird. Like, I was on a walk, and I just didn't have any racing thoughts, and like nothing was making me panic, and I didn't have any existential dread. And she was like, Couty, your meds are working. And I was like, whoa.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
It's like people with glasses when they're like, oh, so you just wake up and you can see every
Yeah.
day?
Yeah.
I'm like, you just wake up and you don't want to unalive every day?
Yeah, thankful. Yeah.
That's-
Yeah.
pretty awesome. But now that I'm on meds, I feel that way. And
There
I'm
you
like,
go. I can
wow,
see
this is kinda
clearly
awesome.
now. The rain is gone.
Well, the rain is not totally gone,
Okay,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
It's not a
partly
thunderstorm, it's
cloudy.
cloudy. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
partly cloudy.
Okay, roll really quickly and then we'll jump to the end because I think we're coming up on an hour.
okay.
Ghosting.
Okay.
Why do we think ghosting is sometimes okay? And now we're talking about relationships,
Yes.
not
Not therapy.
therapy.
I think there are instances where ghosting is appropriate. I think that
For example.
I think if something's like fizzled,
Mm-hmm.
if you've been on 2 dates and no one is really like making effort,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really ghosting. Also, ghosting is another term that is not used appropriately.
Okay, how do you define ghosting?
The actual definition of ghosting is when someone that you have had a long-standing relationship with
It has to be long-standing.
disappears from your life. It's like my fiance of 2 years up and disappeared. Like, I don't know where they went. They've blocked me on their phone. Like, that's ghosting.
Honestly,
We use ghosting a lot these days to say, like, oh, I went on one date with someone and they never texted me again. That's not ghosting. That's just they're not that into you. Calm
honestly,
down.
I've had my mind changed. I agree.
Okay.
I need to switch my definition. Honestly, I agree.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Because I think, yes, okay, when you define it that way, yes,
Yeah.
it should be long-standing and they just literally disappear.
Yeah.
And the way I've been using it is usually like 2 to 3 dates that I
Yeah.
think go well.
Yeah.
And there's at least some sort of like positive feedback, and then
Yeah.
it's like no text back. That's the way I've been defining it.
That's
that hurts.
fair,
That
though.
hurts a little
No,
bit.
it hurts. It definitely hurts.
But is it really ghosting? She doesn't really know me from anywhere. Yeah, I paid for 3 dates, but does she?
Yeah.
Not that anyone owes anyone anything, but I would always think to have the decency to say, like, I've never been mad when I get the text of, honestly, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
I didn't really enjoy the date.
Yeah.
I don't really want to see it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like being upfront. I'm not gonna have my feelings hurt. I'm a big boy.
Yeah.
It's when it's couple of dates, you think they go well, and then all of a sudden you don't hear back. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Let's be adults here. Just say you're not feeling it, and then we could both move on with our lives.
And I don't mean to sound like a heartless bitch.
That doesn't sound heartless.
No, but what you just described, it's not technically ghosting, but it is disrespectful. And I think that if you've had 3 dates with someone and one side thinks that it went really well and the other side maybe doesn't, or maybe the other side just like isn't into it, that person owes you a text that says, hey, I'm really sorry. I don't want you to waste your time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really feeling it. Maybe it's more friend vibes, whatever
Yeah.
your bullshit excuse might be. I also think that if you've slept with someone, you owe them I'm not feeling it anymore versus just like disappearing
I
off
agree.
the face of the earth.
I agree with that also.
Yeah.
I agree with that also. And I hate to bring monetary aspects into it, but I do think,
Oh,
again,
no.
as a man, no, when I'm paid for every single date, money does not grow on trees. Okay? If I paid for 3 dates, don't just disappear on me.
Yeah, but
Like,
okay.
Just say something of like, I'm good, and I'll be like, okay, fine.
Let's make it. Let's run a little experiment.
Okay. I like
How long did
experiments.
it take you to get ready today?
To get ready today?
Yeah,
Well, you see this costume,
you changed into the costume bathroom.
I did.
But between the time you woke up and the time you got here, how much time did you spend like preparing yourself?
Not a ton. Hop in the shower, get dressed, probably like 20 minutes tops.
That's probably the amount of time that you take to get ready for a date, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It took me. I had to wake up at 8:45 this morning to get ready.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I can't look ugly for your podcast.
This is true.
listeners.
Not for Go With The Flow. You can't.
Yeah.
You cannot.
I was gonna show up, no makeup, hair crazy,
Yeah.
and so for a date, we spend a lot of money on makeup. We spend a lot of money on
All
hair
right,
products.
here we
spend
go.
a lot of money looking incredible. We also spend a lot of time getting ready. And so I'm not trying to equate the monetary like investment that you're making, but I think that if you're interested in someone, you should show that. And the way that you show that is with paying for dinner or drinks or whatever it might be. And the way that we show that is by showing up. Honestly, just showing up. You asked me out. And that's the other
What if
thing.
they ask me out? Honestly,
No.
I love. Okay, so we're getting to conversations we don't have time for.
I know.
But sounds like a part 2 is needed. But this is
I think we'll do a part 2.
We'll do part 2, and and we'll just
Not
be
in costume.
We're not in costume, and there is so much to unpack there. And I like where the convo's going, but we don't have time for it.
Okay,
but
because I'm, a crazy person, I need to have the last word.
Oh,
if
we're
I ask you out,
yep.
I'm paying for the date. But I don't really ask people that often. To be
Fair enough. Fair enough.
If
Okay.
ever.
Okay. Yes, we're doing a part 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Done.
Song segment. Before we wrap it up.
Oh yeah.
5 songs to describe who you as a person. I
Yeah.
leave it open for interpretation. Say the song, say the reason.
Okay.
And yeah, feel free to pull up the list.
Okay. So the first one I have for you is Baby Got Back.
Okay.
I think it's
self-explanatory. The people get it. Yeah.
I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor.
Love it.
Disco is a big part of my life, and the lyrics speak to me. I mean, you guys now know my inner
If you've
workings,
listened to the last
so
30
it
minutes,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
The next song along the same vein is Alors on danse by Stromae.
Do you speak French?
I do speak French. It's actually my first language.
Deadass?
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Parlez-vous français?
Yeah. So
On est là. I'm just saying terms.
the lyrics are really about, like, with every like good thing that comes in life, there's also a problem associated with it. And so like he starts out where he's like, when you say studies, they say work. When you say love, they say but the boys. And then you say forever, and then you say divorce. And he's like, we deal with all these problems, but fuck it, let's just dance. And I
Okay.
feel like that is very much how I deal with things, where it's like my outside persona is bubbly, fun, confident, put together, dancey,
Mm-hmm.
but under the surface there are a lot of issues there that aren't necessarily being spoken about. So
Okay. Song
That's
number
one.
4.
no, number 3.
Oh, that was the third? I
That
thought
was the third. I just talk
yeah,
a lot.
yeah, I'm saying the next one I'm song number 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Every Woman,
I'm every woman.
Shaka Khan.
Okay.
Yeah, also self-explanatory. There's a theme here.
You did say that.
Yeah.
And I gave you short notice, so I
You did give
apologize
me
for
short
that.
notice. And then the last one is Can't Remember to Forget You by Shakira and Rihanna.
Hmm.
It's a song about relationships. And I thought we were going to get into relationships on the show, which is why I thought of that one. But it's about, a very specific ex and, having rose-colored glasses on everything, forgetting about the bad, remembering the good. You can't remember to forget them, and it evokes a very specific person in my mind who I can't remember to forget.
Sounds like, again, I love these
Need
are all
part
teasers
2.
for part 2. The people are gonna want part 2. This has been awesome. Okay, and then the very last segment, I
Yeah.
have my song, or not my song, my guests manifest life 10 years in the future to the most specific detail possible.
Oh.
So where would you like to be, doing what, with who, just to the most specific detail? I believe in manifesting and putting things out there.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a cool thing to just kind of speak things into existence. So 10 years from now.
So there are a lot of things in life that you can't control.
Yes.
So this is a difficult question for me. I understand like the manifestation aspect of it, but I think especially with other people, you can't manifest necessarily. And so 10 years from now, I'm happy. I'm still seeing Sarah.
Shout out Sarah.
I actually told Sarah, you retire, I'm still gonna find you. So I'm still seeing Sarah. I'm still prioritizing my mental health. I've worked on myself. I've grown as a person. I still have Frank. Please God. That's my cat.
Okay, I was gonna say,
He's-
who's
yeah.
Frank? We even talked about Frank.
yeah.
I was like, did I miss Frank? Okay.
No, Frank is my cat.
Okay.
He's 7, and so he's 17. I am happy with what I'm doing in terms of work. I'm very successful. I'm living in a brownstone in Brooklyn.
There you go. Talk about it.
And yeah, no, I think 10 years from now, the goal for me, I think, is just happiness, and however that shakes out. I know it's not very specific and you want it specific.
That's good enough. Another one that's open to
Happiness is a
interpretation.
long goal for, someone who deals with major depressive disorder. And, I talk about this a lot, where a lot of people talk about the light at the end of the tunnel. And I don't necessarily believe that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think that you can make your own light. And so I am hoping that in 10 years, I'm surrounded by light and all mentions of a tunnel are forgotten.
That was so beautifully said.
Thank you.
I don't even want to say any more words. Hold on. I'm saying more words as I'm saying that. But this has been a phenomenal episode.
Yay.
It came out of nothing, literally at a party last weekend. And this is probably one of my favorite episodes that I've ever recorded.
Wait,
I'm not just saying that.
Wow.
I think this is honestly, it captures the essence of what I want the show to be. I think the first half was kind of just like silly, goofy.
Yeah.
More that lane, and then the second half was more serious in a way that can help people. And so
Yeah.
this is an ideal episode of Go With The Flow. They're all great, but I've really enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Do you have any final words for the people?
Take care of yourself, be happy, um, and listen to part two.
Listen to part 2.
Support Flow.
This has been an amazing episode. Everyone
I'm
go to
glad.
therapy, check on your strong friends. You
Yes.
never know who's going through what. We all need people to look out for us. And yeah, this has been another episode of Go with the Flow. Thank you for listening.